Chapter 16. The griffin swiveled her head around in surprise and stared at Logan. Clink, he said again. That's your name, right? Lucky guess, the griffin wondered. No, I can hear you, Logan said, climbing to his feet. Loud and clear. Clink's voice in his head vibrated like swords clashing. Hear me? Clink flapped her wings. Then give me want! Treasure! 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 She opened her beak and hissed at the cons. Her claws flexed menacingly, and they looked a lot more like full-grown lion paws than either scorps or flurps. Logan did not want to see those claws sinking into Zoe's back, or that beak stabbing at Blue's eyes. He could only think of one thing to do. Here, he said, fighting past the lump rising in his throat. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his mom's bracelet. I have some really important treasure for you to guard. Really, really important. You have to be very careful with it and make sure it never gets lost. And he stopped, swallowing. Was he really giving mom's bracelet away to a bossy, aggressive 4-month-old griffin cub? Clink ducked her head to peer at the bracelet. The gold chain glinted in the light, and the 12 charms spun and winked. The one that looked like a bird with big eyes was staring at Logan accusingly. Your mom gave this to you when she traveled. She told you to take care of it for her while she was gone. What if she comes looking for it? She won't. She's not coming back, Logan thought, remembering the postcard. The griffin cub jumped down to the floor, landing on quiet cat feet. She sat on her haunches and neatly lifted the bracelet out of Logan's hand with one claw. The elephant charm glowed against her dark fur as she turned the bracelet cautiously from side to side. Beautiful treasure, Clink breathed softly in Logan's mind. So delicate, very important to someone. Full of meaning. Her black eyes were fierce and warm at the same time as she looked into Logan's face. I will guard it with all the courage of my ancestors. Suddenly, Logan didn't feel guilty anymore. He knew she meant it. She would be gentle and careful with it. Mom's bracelet would be safer with Clink than anywhere in the world. May I see that? Mr. Khan asked Clink. She snapped her beak and glared at him, covering the bracelet between her front paws. It's okay, Logan told her. He's allowed. May look, but may not touch, insisted the griffin. She says you can look, but don't touch it, Logan explained. Mr. Khan nodded, and the griffin proudly displayed the gold charm bracelet. Where did you get this? Mr. Khan asked Logan. From most adults, the question would have sounded accusing, but he only seemed curious. Logan wanted the Khans to know it was okay for Clink to have it, but without making Clink think the bracelet wasn't important or worth guarding. It was my mom's. She's not around anymore, so I need someone brave to guard it for me. Someone who knows it's special. I do, Clink insisted, drawing herself up like a Greek statue, her chest feathers ruffled proudly. Mr. Khan gave Clink a small, respectful bow. We know you will take good care of it until Logan's mother returns, Clink. Logan looked down at his sneakers, avoiding everyone's gaze. Like that's ever going to happen. Will you stay for dinner, Logan? Mr. Khan asked, resting one hand on Logan's shoulder. It's just spaghetti, but I think you've more than earned it. Just spaghetti? Mrs. Khan protested. I'll have you know I also defrosted turkey meatballs for you, ungrateful lot. Clink perked up, swiveling her head towards Zoe's mom. Yes, you can have a meatball, Mrs. Khan said, smiling, as long as you go back to your den without any more fussing. No more fussing, Clink crooned. Clink is a treasure guardian now. She delicately draped the bracelet over a couple of large wing feathers and paced out of the garage, keeping one eye on the bracelet at all times. I'll go make sure that happens, Mrs. Khan said. Oh, and I'll let the dragons know they can add Logan to the welcome list, so they won't get any intruder alarms during dinner. She hurried off. I just need to call my dad, but it should be fine, Logan said to Mr. Khan. He felt lucky they weren't kicking him out yet. Even with the scary person at the library and losing his mom's bracelet, this was still the best day he'd had in Xanadu. The best day he'd had since Mom left, actually. A side door in the garage led right into Zoe's kitchen. It was huge and warm, with copper pots hanging from the ceiling, a mountain of mysterious gadgets piled on the drying rack by the sink, and 2 stoves crowded with covered saucepans. An herb garden was rioting in the bay window, effectively blocking the view of the driveway. With winding green leaves and tiny red tomatoes, the room smelled like garlic bread and spaghetti sauce. Logan nearly tripped over one of the hellhounds, who was lying sprawled across the heated silver-gray stone floor. The large dog thumped his tail once and didn't even look up. Zoe frowned at him. "Sheldon," she said, "can't you even pretend to be a scary guard dog?" Sheldon panted cheerfully at her. "You can call your dad in there," Blue said to Logan, pointing to an archway to the left. Beside, it was a pass-through window to the next room, where Blue began stacking plates and mismatched silverware as Zoe handed them to him. Logan went through the archway and found himself in a wide open room. The quarter of it closest to the kitchen was a dining area filled with an enormous wooden table that looked like it had been a tree for a very long time. The surface was hacked and pitted like real wood, not smoothed over like most tables. The rest of the space was a living room, 2 steps down from the dining room. It stretched all the way to the far wall of the house, taking up most of the ground floor. It was covered in thick carpets, woven wall hangings of mythical creatures, comfortable-looking couches, enormous floppy floor pillows, and what appeared to be hundreds of books, shoved into bookcases or sprawled across low tables, or tucked into the corners of overstuffed armchairs. There was no TV, but there were 2 things against the tall sliding glass doors that reminded Logan of the mounted binoculars on the sky deck at the top of the Sears Tower. The windows all looked out on the dark menagerie, down the rolling grass hills to the lake, glittering in the moonlight. Logan sat in one of the large wooden chairs around the table, suddenly feeling exhausted. He pulled out his phone and dialed his dad's cell. When Logan called, Dad answered on the first ring. "Hey, Logan," he said. "Sorry I'm not home yet." "That's okay," Logan said. "Neither am I. One of my—" He stopped. It felt weird to say friends. Blue and Zoe weren't exactly his friends yet, were they? He wondered what they would say about that. "This guy at school invited me for dinner," he said instead. "Is that okay?" "Of course," said his dad, sounding relieved. "That's great, Logan. No problem at all. What's his name?" "Blue," Logan answered. That seemed easier than trying to explain Zoe and her family. Besides, if his dad thought he was hanging out with a girl, he'd never hear the end of it. His dad chuckled a little. "I've never met someone named Blue," he said. "Is he cool?" "Yeah, obviously," Logan said, glancing at the pass-through with a grin. "Only the coolest people want to hang out with me." Blue slid a pitcher of iced tea onto the bar and grinned back at Logan. "All right, have fun," said his dad. "I'll be home late and out early tomorrow. But Sunday night, right? You, me, and the Bears?" "You bet," Logan said. "I'll probably be out a lot tomorrow, too." "With Blue?" "Yeah, probably." He hoped he'd be out looking for griffins, anyhow. Actually, even if he wasn't invited, he wouldn't let that stop him. He could look for griffin cubs on his own if he had to. "All right, stay safe and have fun. I'll check on you when I get home tonight." "Don't work too hard," said Logan. It was what he always said, but it had felt different to say it after Mom left. Like he kind of meant it more than he did before. He hung up and glanced out at the menagerie. One of the unicorns trotted out of the stable and stopped by the side of the lake, tossing its head so that its silver mane rippled. Logan got up and walked around the table toward the window, then stopped short with a gasp. He'd noticed the pile of brown fur when he came in, but he thought it was some kind of shaggy rug. Now he could see that it wasn't. In the middle of the floor, sleeping on one of the enormous pumpkin-colored pillows, was a woolly mammoth.